When we see the synagogue of Satan in the book of Revelation, it is, of course, easy to conclude that this is the spiritual house solely of the Zionists, because, as the book states, these are they who say that they are Jews, but Jesus says they are not, because they are not before God's eyes. However, not everything is as it appears in Revelation, for as the book itself states at the very beginning, it is a signified language. Knowing that the 7 epistles of Revelation are also symbols of church ages is paramount to understanding their entire significance, and much more edifying to the Christian. Once known, one then has to understand what the letters meant to the local churches in Asia Minor, and, correspondingly, what they meant to the remote church ages. At the time of the 7 churches in Asia Minor, the Smyrnaean church was feeling the brunt of persecution at the hands of the Jews who were hereditary Jews, but, all importantly, were not Jews in God's sight. Conversely, they were of the so-called synagogue of Satan. Jesus informing the church that they would suffer intense persecution for 10 days, which meant 10 24-hour days of persecution, but perhaps not consecutive days. But the secondary meaning, referring to the remote church age, the Smyrnaean church age, which ran from about the end of the 1st century to the beginning of the 4th, was that it would suffer 10 persecutions by the devil-led Roman Empire, all of which are well documented. Days, therefore, denoting indeterminate periods of time, like the Day of Trouble. Each several bout of persecution was at the behest of a different emperor, from Nero through Domitian, Trajan, Aurelius, Severus, Maximianus, Decius, Valerian, Aurelian, and Diocletian. Now, when Constantine arrived, he could see for himself that destroying Christianity wasn't working. In fact, it got bigger. So he merged the Christian church with his sun worshippers, of which he was, producing the Roman Catholic Church. This politically motivated move consequently drove true Christians underground, and they were still sought for by the empire. However, this tells us that, all along, during those 10 persecutions, there had been those in influential positions in the church who said that they were Christian, yet were not Christian, due to the fact that they went along with Constantine's merger. Therefore, they were not spiritual Jews, they were of the synagogue of Satan. These two are the farmers of the parable of the tenant. Per the local church in Philadelphia, in Asia Minor, they also were plagued by the Jews, even some infiltrating the church while feigning to be converts. But some of those Jews really converted to Christianity, even worshipping with greater urgency commensurate with their previous folly, having learned that all along God had loved the Philadelphians and not them. And, correspondingly to the remote church age, the Philadelphian church age, lasting from about the middle of the 18th century to the end of the 19th, and so to the secondary meaning, the Romanists were the chief harassers of the Reformed churches. The Romanists still insist that the Roman Catholic Church be the true church, and are therefore the true spiritual Jews. But they are not. They are of the synagogue of Satan. The Philadelphian church age was the great missionary age and the golden age of Christianity, and many Roman Catholics witnessed for themselves that Jesus loved the Bible-believing Protestants, and so they turned from attacking the church and converted accordingly, and they hastened to worship with an urgency that seemed to have the converts ahead of the Protestants in earnest.
I shall be uploading the entire series of Ham is the father of Canaan, but I thought that Noah was. If, however, you would like to purchase the book or ebook, then these options are available on Amazon. I also recommend to you my other publication, Nimrod, The Easy Way to Be a Mighty One, which correlates at times with this particular discourse. My name is John Edgar Townsend. I trust that you will have a blessed day.